could I have done? So if somebody asks you a question, what more could I have done? What does that imply? That you've done enough? You've done everything possible? Right? What could I have done that I didn't do? I'm sorry? So if someone tells you what more could if someone asks you the question, what more could I have done? What does that imply? I could do more. Huh, interesting. So if I were to ask you the question, what more could I have done? You're saying I could have done more. That's interesting. So for me, if I said to you, listen, what more can I have done for you? What more? That to me is saying I ran out of ideas. You know, I think I did everything I could have possibly done to. I think I've done everything I could have possibly done to make sure that I fulfilled your needs, right? And so, what more could I have done is asking the question, is there something that you suggest that I could have done to help you? Right? Is there something that I could have done to help you further than I already have? And let's read the memory text. John 18, verse 37. Thank you for that reading, my sister. I'm going to read it so everyone can hear me. Pilate therefore said to him, are you a king then? Jesus answered and said, Jesus answered, you say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I was come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone is of the truth, hears my voice. So, if I don't understand the truth, will I hear Jesus? Right? So, if I don't want to come understand the truth, can I have done more for you to accept Jesus as king? Because the first step is you got to accept Jesus is king, correct? When you accept Jesus as king, then you will have seen that God has done everything he could have possibly done for your salvation and for mine. But if we refuse to accept Jesus as king, the question becomes, what more could I have done? Because you're never going to get it until you first accept the truth, which is Christ. Does that make sense? So the lesson study in Saturday lesson gives a great analogy of a young boy who was taken away from his parents suddenly. And then as a young boy, he never saw his parents again. Right? And the young boy hated the king for taking him away from his parents. All his life, he's a grown adult now, all his life he hated the king because the king took him away from his parents. Was the boy justified in hating the king for that? Yes, right? Because the context is, I love my mom and dad. In the middle of the night, you came and grabbed me and took me away, and I never saw mom and dad again. And my whole entire life, I longed to see mom and dad, but I never got the chance to do it. So the boy being upset over the king was justified, right? It made sense. Now, later on, he realized that the king took him away from mom and dad because mom and dad was about to die of a bubonic plague, and to avoid the little boy from suffering the same fate or even seeing his mom and dad suffer through the plague, he took them away before the symptoms even began to manifest itself before mom and dad. So now, the grown man now who understand the context, would he be justified to still be upset with the king? Would he be right to be still upset with the king? Yes? Why yes? I like that you said yes. Why? Okay. Yes.
Yes, as he grew up and he understand the reason why the king took away from his parents.
Mm-hmm.
Now he really understand. I know he will have different mindset about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that lesson teaching us as parents, as Jesus said, we should grow our children in the right way that they should grow.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
And then that mama and dad
Pay attention. Can you please look at the camera for me and make sure it's working? Because you can just make sure it's.
They would say no. Everybody, every children would do that same thing, and I can't go. And now I am a parent, and I realize the thing that my mother and father, want me to do. Now I'm doing the same thing with my children.
I got a lot of ground to cover. I'm sorry. I really do. I got a lot of I got a lot of ground to cover, and I don't got that much time. All right. And so I heard you what you said too, that you have better understanding as a parent than what your parents did for you when you're a child. So I acknowledge that, and also I'm going to acknowledge your question. So was the older man now justified for hating the king? And so we could make the case that's the world's perspective of Christ, of God. God, I've been good all my life. I've done the right things. I've attended church. I've studied the scripture, but for some reason, everything keeps going wrong for me. Right? Everything keeps going wrong for me. Why is it that you can't explain to me, you can't come to me and explain to me why everything that I'm doing is just not enough? And not only it's not enough, I'm suffering. I get sick. I don't have any money. I'm always in and out the hospital. And you have questions that you want God to answer right now. Don't we all have that burning desire for God to answer questions that just doesn't make sense right now? I see your hand. Doesn't make sense right now. Again, I'm going to limit questions to very short because I don't have much time to cover. And I got a lot. And so, I typically open up for more questions, but my time is very, very short today. And so it's a justified question that God understands from us. Does that make sense? Sister Marilyn.
That's what it boils down to.
Yep. Okay. What do you?
It also has to do with the person's personality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going back to what the sister said. Some people would have taken it exactly what she said as an adult, where others would go through a whole lot of stuff as they're growing to adulthood and have more compassion when they finally hear it. So it depends on the personality too.
While people, I'm on Wednesday's lesson, while people suffer greatly in the cosmic conflict, God himself suffers most of all. All right? While people suffer, God himself suffers more. That's I gave this analogy before. When you discipline your child, you say it hurts me more than it hurts you, right? When we look at the cross, we can indeed see what suffering and pain sin has brought to God himself. Yet so sacred was the freedom inherent in the love of Christ that was willing to endure this on our behalf. God suffers most. Because God, as we know, is a good God. And he has to hear his name slandered throughout the entire earth that he is this evil character that Satan is portraying him to be. That's suffering. And he has the power. This is what suffering is too. He has the power to at any time say, okay, this is enough. You ever had power to do something and you're holding back and it hurts you that you're holding it back? Right? It hurts you a lot that, okay, I could, but, you know, it hurts you that you're holding it back. And so that's suffering in a sense too. And so, and the more important suffering of all is God saying, as much as I don't deserve to be punished for this, I'm going to accept their punishment. Right? That's like, you deserve to be executed because you killed someone. And then mom and dad says, I love my son so much. I taught him well. I taught him what to do and what not to do. And please, judge, rather than kill my son, can you kill me instead? And the judge says yes. The judge is being the father, right? And the son saying, I love him so much that I die for them instead. Can you imagine the judge, the father, listening to this conversation first and foremost and saying, wait, no. You know, they deserve to die because they sinned. But the son says, I will die so that they live. That's suffering. So in that context, just like the king in this story with the little boy, the king is willing to have his name slandered so that the little boy may have a good life. Does that make sense? The king, and all his intention was out of love for the little boy. His name was slandered by the little boy all the boy's entire life. But he accepted that so that the little boy will have a better life. Whether or not the little boy ever knew the truth. Some people will die never knowing the truth. And that's why Jesus commissioned us to go ye therefore. Because we need to go tell people this truth. Because more than ever, especially now in the political time we're living in, people are asking the question, what is going on? We had rules, checks and balances, judicial, executive, and legislative, and it seemed like the executive branch is doing whatever he wants and whatever they want, and no one is stopping them. What is going on? So we have more of a responsibility now to go tell people the truth so that they can accept the king. Does that make sense? And so, I'm trying to pick key points here. The song of my beloved in Isaiah. The song of my beloved in Isaiah, which is a key point in the lesson study this week. It's a song in Isaiah chapter 3, I believe. Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5. Right? The gardener planted grapes. He expected good grapes. And then the grapes that came out, and the gardener tried everything to make sure that the vineyard produced good fruits. But the vineyard only produced evil fruits, bad fruits, nasty fruits. And the more he did fertilizer, hired professionals to come and look at the garden, the more he did, the more the grapes were not good fruits. And then he asked himself the question, what more could I have done? Right? What more could I have done? I spent all this money on the garden. I sent people, professionals to go look at it. I bought fertilizers. I took my entire time to make sure that the garden is well. What more could I have done? And then Jesus takes that analogy a little further in Matthew, correct? And then now the parable goes that he had a vineyard. He sent people. He saw that the vineyard wasn't producing good enough fruits, so he sent messengers. And then he beat the first messenger, second messenger, and then the third messenger killed them even. And then now the gardener looks at it and says, well, you know what? Maybe if I send my son, they'll see that how much I love this garden and I want to make sure that this garden is successful. I'm going to send my son, my own son, to go look after the garden, the vineyard for me. And then their thoughts were, oh, now that he's sending his son, once the father dies, the vineyard goes to the son. So if we kill the son, we'll keep the vineyard. And so we know the analogy is being that they killed Christ. And so God asked, listen, I sent messengers, I sent prophets, now I sent my son. What more can I do? You know? And so he was talking about the Israelites. Now he's talking to us. He gave us the Bible. He gave us the spirit of prophecy. He gave us passage of juice. Amen. He gave us all these messengers to come and deliver message of deliverance. He sent now his beloved son, which we have historical records that this really happened. It's not a fairy tale. There's historical records of this. And you still don't want to accept the truth. What more can you do? Right? That's the question. Can you suggest to God something else that God could have done? I'm sorry, I heard a little whisper. Say it loud. Get rid of the devil from the beginning. If he did that, and I think I covered this in my sermon last week. If he did that, it would be tyrant. He'd be a tyrant. And God is not a tyrant. God is love. Because if you're going to tell me, Mark, you stole the cookie, right? Mark, you stole the cookie. And I know I didn't steal the cookie. And I know I could beat you up for saying you stole, for accusing me of stealing your cookie. I could beat you up, right? And then if I beat you up, somebody else looking at me and be like, oh, he really did steal that cookie. Now he's going to try to cover himself by beating up this guy, right? Right? That's how it's going to look, right? And so if I say, you know what? I didn't steal the cookie, but there's nothing I can do to prove it to you. I'm just going to let the truth prove itself. And then you see a little boy come by with crumbs in his mouth. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, Mark, for accusing you of stealing the cookie. Now you don't look at me as a tyrant. You look at me as willing to accept false accusations so I could still protect you, even though it hurts me. Does that make sense? And so, the plan of salvation, the defeat of the enemy's rulership takes place in 2 phases. It's in 2 phases. I'm on Monday's lesson. First, to the work of the cross, Christ disproves Satan's slanderous accusations. Before Christ died on the cross, the universe was confused. Does that make any sense? Before Christ died on the cross, the universe was confused. Because this angel of light, his number one guy, who knows God the best, besides Jesus, is